Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome to another special edition of Conversations for Humanity here on LinkedIn and on YouTube and also on Twitter/X. We have our great special guest today, Occam Wood, here today to come share his story on Conversations for Humanity. So if you'd like to have a great and engaging conversation with him, I will send the link with you guys here just in just a little bit, so you can join, whether to be on LinkedIn, whether to be on YouTube, or also on Twitter/X. And we would love to have you join the conversation today. And I kid you not, when I checked on the numbers today, there was going to be like over 50 people just on LinkedIn alone being on this call today. So, Occam, congratulations to you. You have driven the most people to our call, and that's amazing in and of itself. But again, thank you so much for coming and share your story on Conversations for Humanity.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about not what you do, but who you are, and kind of like where are you from, things
Sure.
of that nature? We would love to know that.
Yeah, man. So I am an energetic health practitioner and trauma recovery facilitator, right? But that's more what I do. Who I am is a father, a husband, a son. Like I've been all these things in my life, but right now I live in Southern Oregon. I live on a beautiful 80-acre property that I rent from a landlord who does eggs, chicken farm. So you may hear some roosters and chickens in the background. And I have a son who's 11 years old. He's on the autism spectrum and he's nonverbal. So that's an experience that we have that has pushed and driven a lot of my growth in the last 10 years and has really driven me into the health journey that we're on. And I have a lovely wife. We've been together for 17 years. And we just love it out here in the woods, man. We're not necessarily city people. I love to be able to walk out and see the fruit trees and to have the animals, the wildlife coming through. I'm really more of an earthy kind of person, as far as it goes. I do some work that could be considered woo-woo. But really, I'm a down-to-earth individual, right? Like I like living off the grid. I'm not off the grid, but it's a goal to be off the grid and to be self-sufficient. I love my garden. I love my animals. I love my chickens. I'm just I'm just a normal guy, man. I'm just a normal guy living out here in the woods and trying to live a life of sobriety and unconditional love and compassion that helps me to help others.
Awesome. So the question I would love to start off with the conversation about who you really are is, what even led you to Oregon in the first place?
Well, that's definitely a good part of the origin story for sure, right? Because when I left Colorado, I actually had a pretty mean meth addiction, right? So I actually left Colorado and came to Oregon in 2000. I think it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2000. And that was a culmination of my early years, basically. That moment, that age, 19, 20, was when I finally shifted out of what I had been and into where I wanted to be, right? So a lot of my story previous to coming to Oregon was the sexual and physical abuse as a child that led to the drug and alcohol abuse as a teenager, which led to all the crime, the violence, the agitation, the almost prison time. And this all caused me to be depressed and ultimately homeless at 19 and looking at committing suicide, right? Looking at potentially not living anymore. I got to the point where I didn't want to draw breath. I didn't think I had anything of value to give to the world. And so through that experience of trying to decide whether I was going to live or die, and actually more specifically, I was trying to decide who to blame, right? I was trying to decide whose fault was it that I was here on this rooftop trying to stay warm next to a grill vent while eating food out of the trash. Whose fault was it? And as I went into that exploration of whose fault was it, and I looked at all these different scenarios and circumstances and situations and stories, there was only one common denominator. And that was me. I was the only person that was there all the time through every one of those scenarios up until where I was right then. And so they give me this perspective of being able to look at these past events as something that was not a determining factor of who I was, but they were possibilities and potentials that I had accepted, right? They were stories that I had told. I was the one who chose to be a victim out of those stories and chose to allow that to influence my decisions. And so there on that rooftop, I decided that I wanted to become a product of my past instead of a victim to it. And that was really the start of my journey up to Oregon. It took me about another month to get things in line. And my mom invited me up, basically asked me to come up because she was fairly certain that my stepdad was being inappropriate with my little sister. And so when I moved up here, it was originally to excavate him from the family. And we both ended up in jail because I handled that the way that an angry teenager does. And so we both ended up in jail. But as soon as I got out of jail, I jumped on a fishing boat here in Oregon. And I spent the next 2 years commercial fishing with some really fantastic guys who really showed me what a father could be, what unconditional love could be, what a mature, masculine, positive masculine energy could be. And so that's really literally my shift from the darkness into the light was that change and that transformation into Oregon.
Awesome. And we got some people who already are just coming in. So Michelle, glad that you are here. Please click that link, and we would love to have you on to call today. And Michael's going to be joining us here in just a little bit, in about 10 minutes. And my great friend Thomas Condell out in Australia is going to be joining us here, hopefully in a little bit too as well. So you're literally going worldwide in and of itself. So, and Michelle, please, if you want to as well, and to anyone here, I would love to have a great and engaging conversation with you too as well. So please send me a message and let's make that happen. And it is, to be honest with you, Michelle, it is Wonderful Wednesday. So we're just glad that you are here. The link is actually in the comment section, Michelle. Let me go send it to you right now on LinkedIn. So I will reply to you right now, because LinkedIn always is a delay versus what's actually live. So you will see it. I'll just reply back to you, Michelle. So you should see that. Just copy and paste that link and everything. And there it is. And we would love for you to join the call.
Yeah. But I'm really happy to take questions too. Like I can sit up here
absolutely
about my journey and exactly what I do. But I love the feedback. I'm very much into the intuitive and the connection there. So.
And no, Michelle, you message me directly. Just click on my name and send me a direct message if we're not connected. And if we are connected, send me a message. Because I would love to have a great and engaging conversation with you and what you thought about today's call and everything like that. But the link that I just sent you is the link to join the call. So we would love to have you on the call, Michelle. And anyone watching, we would love for you to join in. But Occam, I got to ask you, when you really found the opportunity to grow and thrive in the place that you're on now, in and of itself, and I know you'll probably tie this in to your story, what was that like done in almost like years and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, it's been a 20-year journey to get to where I am now. You know, quitting that methamphetamines and moving up here and leaving everything behind, like including my 2-year-old son with his new stepdad and his mother. That was 20 years ago, 22 years ago now. And it wasn't all just uphill. You know, there's peaks and valleys, and there were ultimately a lot of people and a lot of experiences that shifted me one step at a time. Right. So when I first went to Burning Man, when I was in 2003, that was a big shift for me. That was this breakthrough awareness that there were people who were out there just to do good in the world. There were people out there that just wanted to create community and share and be peaceful. Having come from the lack and the kind of torment of my youth, I had basically given up on humanity. You know, so having this awareness that there's this group of people who come from all over the world. If you're not familiar with Burning Man, which I think most people are, if you're not, look it up, because it's hard to explain how amazing it is. It's literally this spot in the desert. There's nothing there. And within a week, it turns into a thriving city of people who come together to create music and magic and art and love. And it's all no money. You know, once you're in, you can't give money. It's all about the sharing community. So it really shifted my mind in a big way. And like I said, living with those people, the Petersons, the Cunninghams, and the Evanaws, these three families that showed me what it was like to actually have compassion for each other and true unconditional love. Not that my mom was terrible, right? Like I had a pretty good mom, but she was doing her best. Let's just say that she was doing her best. And And so there was these shifts, right? And then at 25, I met my wife, and that's when I quit smoking cigarettes. And we've been together ever since. And that really took me out of my womanizing days. Like I'd never told anybody I loved them until I met my wife. And that was a year after we'd been hanging out, that I finally got to that place where I could break into what love and what a couple was actually like. So it's been steps all along the way, so 17 years off cigarettes, 11 or 12 from liquor, 7 from beer. I still drink beer occasionally, but not obsessively like I did. Right. And that whole journey, that whole 20-year journey that culminated in my son losing the ability to speak. He was born when I was 30, and at 33, so he was about almost 3 years old, he stopped talking and was then diagnosed with autism. Right. And so that was another big spark that, like, okay, something's not right in my reality, and you have to shift. Like we all know, like when you have kids, there's landmarks and flag posts and all these different things that you get in these certain diameters. And when you have an autistic diagnosis, that all gets thrown out the window. You're basically recreating it day to day, trying to figure out what your specific needs are, So that also took me out of the norm and put me into a place of adaptability and manipulating what I had into what I needed. And that's really what sparked me back into the energy work and the trauma healing, right? Because at that point, I was in chaos. My wife was going to leave me. My son had stopped talking. My business partner tried to commit suicide. Like I was completely broke because I was growing medical marijuana at that point, and the money just. I was not really good gardener, really terrible drug dealer, really terrible at making deals and making money in that regard. So I was in a real bad place, and I called out to the universe to show me what was next. And then I got led and invited into the ayahuasca ceremony, and that's really where the next big shift and contortion of my reality took place, where I was actually taken into that ceremony and was actually able to speak to the spirit of that medicine. And what she told me and what she shared with me is what ultimately led me on the last 10 years of this journey, the last 6 years at least. Yeah.
Wow. And now when you think about Burning Man, and I have to ask you this, and then we'll go into your story. And Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. I got to ask you this. Is Burning Man literally almost like the new age kind of dynamic and version of what Woodstock was back in the 60s? Was that a complete different kind of, there's almost like literally a community of people just flocking on one place in the desert, and they just it's like over a week long, I believe. They just have tons of fun.
Yeah, I would say the basis of it is the same, right? This drive to come together and buck the norms of society, right? So in that regards, what happened at Woodstock, from my experience, I wasn't there obviously, but in my experience, it was the voice of the youth standing up against the culture and against what was, and saying we want to do it differently. Now the difference there is, from what I saw from Woodstock, was it was mainly based around the music and the drugs, right? And this ability to come together and dance in the mud. And I may be wrong. I'm totally open to feedback on that. But what I saw in Burning Man, what was different, was community. This isn't just coming together and we're gonna have our party and then we're gonna leave this massive trash pile in the mud. Burning Man comes with nothing there, and when they leave, there's no trace, right? So it's very intentional. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a year of planning just to get everybody in the right place. We're talking about thousands of porta potties. We're talking about 2 crews running all the time to empty those porta potties, right? We're talking about infrastructure like fire and medics and police officers, security, all these things that are put in place, because when you're dealing with, when I went, it was only 2,500 people. Now I think it's something like 25,000, if I'm not mistaken. So when you're dealing with those kind of numbers, you're going to have different experiences. And honestly, all 3 years that I went were different experiences, right? They all took me to different places. But the core of it is that community. It is, we're going to do something different. We don't have to listen. We don't have to be limited to the way things are. And so people spend years creating and manufacturing art for the event, right? So it goes from nothing to full-on structure. It's a big city, and then, like I said, facilities with everything you need, including medics. And so it is not the we're just going to go party thing. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a great deal of partying there, right? There's a great deal of partying there, but there are just as many elderly people that go and wander throughout the day to all these experiences like yoga and meditation and mind altering experiences, non-drug altering, but also in the evening, there is a real party scene. There's a real, you kick on the neon lights and everybody puts on amazing costumes if they choose to wear anything at all. And we go out and you have a good time together, and you know that you're all there for the same purpose, which is to create something that wasn't there before. So I think there is a great deal of difference between the two, but I would say that core purpose of coming together and bucking the system and saying we're going to do it differently because we can. I think that's intrinsic to both.
Awesome. I love, and yes, even though I wasn't around during Woodstock, they had a lot of great acts back in the day in Woodstock. They had the Grateful Dead, they had Jimi Hendrix, they had Wilson, not Wilson Phillips, but the Mamas and the Papas was there. There had a lot of big acts. Yeah, Janis Joplin was there too as well. But literally, and I kid you not, they did all that in a field out in the middle of nowhere. And and I think Burning Man had a lot to emulate from because of that. And that was just truly amazing to see that take place, because again, out in the middle of nowhere, you can still have a great time, have a great community. And I truly believe they picked up on that, because Woodstock kind of set that kind of bar there and everything like that. And literally, when you really thought about it, Woodstock was literally a movement. And still, I think to this day,
it definitely started a movement.
Yeah, it's a movement. So, Michael, how you doing today, sir, on Wonderful Wednesday?
I'm alive. That is my answer every time. And you know it, and I know it, and everybody else knows it. Okay? We all dancing. We all one of one. And I'm happy to be here. I wanted to check you guys out, what you're doing. Because, you guys hit me up. Okay, I'm going to check it out.
Well, we're glad that you're here today and everything. And Michael, I would like to be able to connect with you offline. And I'm so glad that you are here. But I just surely believe it's about that time that our guest today will come share his story on Conversation for Humanity. So, Occam, the floor is yours. Please come share your story on Conversation for Humanity.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can expand and expound from that, right? Because like I said, that Burning Man experience was really when I realized that I had been a victim my whole life and that I could be more. I could be a citizen of the world as opposed to just a victim to it. And so that's actually where I got the name Occam even. Before that, I was Timothy. And Timothy was, to me, everything encompassing that darkness, that those times, those things that I wasn't really secure with, I wasn't proud of by any means, And so when I got the nickname Occam, it started out as just a party alias, but it really did become part of what I've ingrained into my life, which is the simplest solution is most often the correct. That's Occam's razor. And so I've been Occam now longer than I was Timothy. And to get back to that story of the ayahuasca and how that really shifted into where I am now, right? Even how I got led to that experience was off the charts. It wasn't like I was looking for it. It literally, someone came and invited me to it, and it changed my life forever. That's when I really got led to the healing and reminded back to my healer's path. Now, I skipped over the part when I was 14. I actually got deathly ill. Right. The doctor said they couldn't do anything for me. So I'd been sexually molested from the time I was 7 to the time I was 11, but it didn't come out until I was 14. Now, after the court case with my cousin and everything else that was coming up around that, I got incredibly ill. Now, the doctor said it was environmental poisoning from the lawn care company that I started when I was 12, all the chem lawn stuff, all the herbicide, pesticide, insecticide stuff. But they told me they couldn't do anything for me. And my mom said, well, we're not gonna tolerate that. And we went to southern Utah, northern Arizona, and she took me to a bunch of alternative healers who were giving vitamins and energy work and hands-on healing. And so I was attuned to Reiki when I was 14, bordering on 15. And it was amazing, right? They were putting hands on me and they were telling me that this is the force of nature, that you can call it God, you can call it source, you can call it creator, but it's basically that energy that flows through and around us. And it's that subtle energy. And it's our ability to affect the physical body with these subtle energies. And I told them the story about when I was 7, I put hands on this cat. And I said, now I don't necessarily believe in God, but whatever Jesus did, let that go through me. Because I was already having my conflict with the religious structures, the LDS church. I left the LDS church when I was 6 because they wouldn't let me in without a tie. And I said, well, that's no God I know of would stop me from coming in and worshiping without a tie. So I had my own little hiccups about that I've worked out over the years. But I did have this urge and this knowing in me that if I put my hands on this animal and I channeled in whatever energy made the sun shine and the grass grow to heal this animal, to help it feel better, you know? And so I was telling them this story and they chose to train me. They were like, we got to train this kid. And so they did train me and I was doing amazing things. But again, at 15, 16, it's really hard to be a super sensitive kid when all you really want is to have friends and to get along and to go into those teenage years that we've all experienced, right? Where we start drinking and smoking and doing the things that we know we shouldn't do. So fast forward to the ayahuasca ceremony, when she tells me to get back on the healer's path, I knew exactly what she was talking about. You know, and that night right then I quit smoking marijuana because she basically said, if you quit clouding your vision, then you'll be able to walk your path. And so I said, all right, that's what I need to do. Then I commit to not smoking marijuana and I will get back into doing the energy work that I'm supposed to be doing. So over the next several years, she downloaded all kinds of information, all kinds of nighttime learnings, like what I call dream school, where I was shown the intricate nature of our reality and the beyond physicality of our reality, right? I'd always been pretty into physics and quantum physics, but she was showing me metaphysics, right? She's showing me the multiple layers of the energy body and how our spirit is condensing down our actual energy into our physical body and how that goes through the ego field and how that ego field is populated with belief systems and structures that stem from our experiences, including our traumas, right? Our traumas actually live in our field. And so she was showing me all these different ways that trauma shows up in the physical body. She was showing me these entities and these consciousnesses that are attached to the substance abuse and the core of what a lot of these substance abuses were coming from. And at the same time, I was really diving into the Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff. I took a course in the Hands of Light from Barbara Ann Brennan. And she was basically showing and saying and putting a title to all of this stuff that I'd only understood in a non-physical form, right? She's if you're not familiar with Dr. Ann Brennan, the Hands of Light, she's a rocket scientist who got back into healing and metaphysics. And so she wrote a book that basically breaks down all the layers of the body. And it's amazing because it reads like a college textbook. Like I had to get a dictionary to go with it when I was looking into it, when I was studying it. And so what I do, I haven't necessarily been trained outside of the Reiki, the level 3 master of the Asui Reiki tradition and the Holy Fire upgrade. The rest of it I've kind of absorbed from multiple people and interpreted and inherited through these channelings and then ultimately by working with clients and seeing the effects, right? And so that was a big shift for me. Those 2 years right after that ayahuasca ceremony were really, really intense for my learning. I was doing a lot of sweat lodges. I was doing a lot of ceremonies. I was surrounding myself with people who could help me understand what was going on in my body and in my mind. And ultimately, I had to step back from that because my son's autism was at a point where we finally got his diagnosis at 3, and it was taking a real toll on my wife. If you can imagine a nonverbal child who won't answer to his name, who doesn't sleep at night. He never slept more than an hour of sleep in his life, and up until he was 3. And so we were just in a lot of chaos. And I had to step back from helping to heal others and really focus on my own health and my son's health and my wife's health. Now, fast forward, we've done the diet changes. We've done the environmental changes. We are doing nutrition and diet as medication, right? We stayed away from most of the hardcore pharmaceuticals and treated him through natural means, holistic and homeopathic means. And he started to get a lot better. And so as the pandemic was hitting, I got the real drive that I was supposed to go back to doing these sessions. And so again, I committed to sobriety and I committed to my sessions, and the universe just opened up for me. I started doing these long distance sessions. And again, long story short about how I got led to long distance sessions. And in the first session, it was way outside the parameters of a standard Reiki session, 21 hand positions, 3 minutes each. And then the chakras, this was like diving into someone's life, like actually being able to feel the emotions and to see the timeline and the age bracket that these traumas were happening, and ultimately being able to feel the effects that these traumas were having on the people. And I love how Gabor Mate states it. He says, trauma is not the thing that's happening to you. Trauma is the thing that happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you, right? So it's these decisions and these belief systems we make about ourselves and others in reality that ultimately dictate what we think about ourselves, right? And that ego field is just filled with all that stuff. Am I strong? Am I weak? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Am I brave? Am I shy? Are men dangerous? Are women manipulative? Is money hard to make? Or is people safe in general? And that's what informs our body, right? So to get back to that energy that's pushing into our physical body, it goes through those belief systems. It goes through. And if you have a life where you're raised in peace and ease, and you were never made to cry it out, you always had what you needed, your money was always there, your food was always there, the love was always there, then you've got a programming that's going to interpret that energy, which is coming in perfect balance. Universal life force energy is absolutely balanced. It has all abundance and prosperity as well as decay and disease, right? So it's the light, the dark, the love, and the hate. But as it enters into our field, it's informed by our belief systems. And those belief systems will say, yes, I'm safe. Yes, life is good. Yes, money is easy. Or it will say, I am not worthy. I have to be ashamed of myself. I experience these things that tell me that I'm not worthy of my own life sometimes. And so that's what informs our mind, our belief systems. Everybody knows that our belief systems and our awareness affects our reality, but not too many people take that extra step to go into what's affecting our mind, because your memories are not locked in your brain. Right. They've done studies that show like you lose this part of your brain, you shouldn't have memories. And yet here you are still having memories, still having consciousness. So everything lives outside the brain. The brain is a receiver, and that receiver is receiving the information that's in your field. And so as I started doing these sessions, I was able to actually dive in and fully feel, because I'm not clairvoyant or clairaudio. I don't hear this stuff or see this stuff. I feel it deeply in my body. It's called clairsentience and claircognizance, which is I know without knowing how I know. And as soon as I get out of my own way and get my own ego and my own judgments out of the way, I started seeing things, and I started seeing the timeline for these people. Like, oh, what is this around your knee? This right knee, the age of 5, what was going on with your father? And why am I feeling like I'm in a basement, and all these things. And so it started to show me how I could help people identify and reprogram those thought systems and neutralize and remove the energetic toxins that are actually accumulating on them. Because not only are they accumulating energy from what would be coming in as pureness, but they're also getting feedback loops. So every time you have that scenario where, yep, that person took advantage of me, or we all know that person, male or female, that gets a partner, and every time it's the same kind of partner. It's the same kind of deceit. It's the same kind of abuse. It's the same kind of narcissistic behavior that usually reflects something in the parent, right? And as we go through that, we're just constantly drawing that kind of problem back in. And this is where addiction and depression and suicidal ideation can really get built up, because the more and more we say, yep, I knew it. I knew I wasn't worth it. I knew that if I tried that, I'd get shut down. I knew that if it wasn't a 10, it wasn't good enough. It'll actually start to accumulate energy and go from being just a belief system, which is something that's easy to shift, into a construct. And a construct is something that is absolutely true for you, even though you can look at the neighbor and say, it doesn't seem to be true for them, but I can't see past what this is for me. And then it goes on to even another layer where they actually can manipulate and control the way the energy and the information is being interpreted to keep you from seeing those red flags, right? And it can put you in self-sabotage, and it can put you in these self-destructive cycles, so that you continue to feed back that loathing, that shame, that resentment, that guilt. And I found that this is true from the addict on the street to the CEO who's made $9 million. the energy around the belief systems that may be stopping them from accelerating in all parts of their life, right? Maybe they have had that family, maybe they have made that six-figure job, but maybe they're not connecting with their family. Maybe they're not connecting with their spirit. Maybe they feel terrible in their body, right? These are all the same living in the field. And so as I've moving out of just the addiction and the suicidal ideation and into more coaching and business entrepreneurs and what I say is heart-centered change makers, I'm finding that the trauma and the energy is exactly the same. Sometimes the story is different, but what needs to happen is always the same: to identify it, to neutralize it, to release it, and then to integrate something new. And so that's really where I'm at now, is helping people who I know are helping people, right? That's what really drives me. And I still do plenty of work with the addiction and the suicidal ideation. I actually know at least 9 people have come to me and said, I'm going to kill myself tonight or Friday or this weekend if this doesn't work, because I've tried the talk therapy, I've tried the meds, I've tried the hypnotherapy and the NLP, and I still haven't got the results I wanted. And then 4 hours later, do this deep dive session, and all of a sudden they're like so excited about life and their potential that they actually want to live, and they go on to create businesses and release their albums and do the things that they couldn't do before. And so that's where I'm at right now, is really trying to help people with that. And the last thing I'll say on that, before I'm totally happy to take some questions or elaborate on any of this, is that ultimately the physical body is the last frontier for this energy, right? So it goes through our emotions and our mental processes, and then it affects our physical body. And so this is where chronic pain and disease and discomfort and depression can actually show up in the physical body. And Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, about how the DNA is actually made up of light, right? And so as that light is coming into your body to inform your DNA, and it's not a blueprint of who you are, it's actually a catalog, a journal of who you've been and who your family has been and who your 8 great-great-grandparents have been, that's informing you of your health and your vitality. And so when that pure light's coming in without the distortion, you're able to recreate these telomeres and these genetic codes in a way that is pure and clean. And if it's distorted by these thoughts of guilt and shame and fear and resentment, it'll actually manifest as disease and disharmony in the physical body, right? And so there's so many books like The Body Keeps the Score and a couple others that talk about how certain illnesses have a trace of a certain emotional problem with it. And hey, Alexandria. And so it's a way of understanding that we are not just a physical body, that we can change that. Now, obviously, there's environmental toxins that need to be addressed, as well as the emotional and mental toxins that need to be addressed for our physical health. And I don't work on the physical body. I work in the energy body. But I can tell you that the results my clients experience are nothing short of miraculous when it comes to the healing and the moving through depression, migraines, fibromyalgia, endometriosis, cystic fibrosis. You'd be amazed at how many women suffer through terrible uterine health. And then they have a trauma session and they do the work, and all of a sudden they don't even notice their cycles anymore, right? And it's also shown up. One of my favorite clients was able to start walking 2 weeks after our first and only session, right? She'd been in a wheelchair for 2.5 years. I didn't do anything for her legs. I just worked on the 12 years of daily ritualistic abuse that she'd accumulated in her childhood. And then her body was able to start healing itself. And she walked into her doctor's office 2.5 weeks later and blew his mind. And so that's the multiple levels that this work can really do and help. And I never guarantee anything like that, but it's always a possibility. So yeah, that's the spiel.
Awesome. I love that. So let's go to our guest, Michael, who's with us today. Michael, what's been showing up for you and what Occam has been sharing so far?
Occam is perfect. He's perfect. Like you are perfect. We're all perfect. That's the whole thing. I think the segregation, we have to segregate the system relevance that generalizes humanity in gender, race, whatever. Right now we punish in the world the people that are born Palestinian, the people that are born Ukrainian, the people that are born Jewish, punish each other because they're born like that. So tell me whose fault it is that you're Jewish or American or Russian or whatever, and all of a sudden the system says, oh, all Russians are today, all Russians are bad. Let's fight them. That's generalization of humanity. And that's why he was so, because what Occam was what made me so aware, because he was like, detail, because we are all one of one. So for one person, he has to perhaps make, you're good, and it's enough. Like in millionaire churches, that happens. And in other people, he needs to do a 2-year ritual to heal that person, because everybody is a one of one, with a one of one perspective, not with a binary, I'm right and you are wrong. That's why I say everybody's a genius. It hasn't just found it yet, but everybody is a genius. And to experience our human potential is to dance with each other, the oneness, not I'm right, I'm the expert, you know. You can be an expert. You know where you can be an expert? In engine building, in computer science, that has nothing to do with humans. In AI, you could be an expert, but you can't be an expert in humans. You can't. You can't be a coach, a life coach. It's just all. Yes, you can help, and the person that allows it, you help him, or it doesn't allow it to help him. But basically, you have to dance with him. Any coach has to dance with the people, and when you dance with them, you can open to a life perspective. And when you open our life perspective, that's what we do here, right? You open the life perspective. Oh man, Chris said. Oh, Occam said. Oh, Michael. And that is human potential. Human potential is not, I have 3 steps you got to follow. I have 5 steps for you to follow. That's bullshit. That is bullshit, because it's generalization already of humans. Nobody can follow steps, because how many self-help books are the most sold books in the world? And the least read books, because you're going through, you heal, your body heals yourself. You're going through a trauma, your girlfriend dumps you. And what are you doing? You're going to get a self-help book. And then you read a couple of pages, and in the next day, it heals, that energy gets out somehow. I'm not saying it's out forever, and I'm not saying it's perfectly out. But you're not going to finish reading that book, because the body is fixed by nature to heal itself. And we also, but except animals let it go there in the moment. But humans are collecting. We're collecting 10 generations, 20 generations. We're just collecting the bullshit. You know, they found out with AI now that when you say, oh, my family, everybody died of a heart attack. And they found out it's not connected to the DNA. Your heart attack is not, because it's mentally. Oh, my dad had a heart attack. I guess I have to have a heart attack too. My dad has a heart attack. I died at 52. And I was waiting till 52 that it hits me, or that I get this thing. And then I got it. And I said, no, period. No, I'm sorry. It's not that. Everybody's a one of one. He's him. I'm me. I have to die perhaps of a stroke or something else. But I'm not going to die of the same my whole lineage died of. I think that's and you see here in the perspective how I open. I didn't say Occam was wrong. He's wrong. And you, Chris, are especially wrong. I didn't say that. I said yes, yes, yes. And I always say yes.
Yeah.
And then I listened and I said, no, I can't do that. I'm not, I'm honest, you can do it. Yeah. So
yeah, and we're moving into that space of both and. Right.
Yeah.
It's no longer either or with the religions or the countries or the other things. Like we're entering into a space galactically and collectively that is both and. And so I love that you're talking about that one of one, because the way I see it is that we are originally that one of one. We are all the same. We are all a spirit being inhabiting this physical body. And what gets in the way of that, what creates the ego, what creates the division, what creates the separation is what's informing to us, right? And some of it's indoctrinated in schools, but a lot of it's just adopted. We just adopted. Our parents did that, so I'm going to do that. Or they say it's the genetics, so it is the genetics, right? And we know that quantum physics tell us, like, if whatever you believe is right? Like you believe it, therefore it is. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Our actual beliefs are affecting the way we live. And so when it comes to treating the individual, like the one thing I will say I differ on just a little bit is that those coaching can help, because they are identifying, if you find the right coach and you find the right thing that identifies to you. Right. So sometimes my message isn't going to be for everybody, but this message could land with that small demographic. And I think that's why we're moving away from professionals who have spent 10 to 20 years reading books. And we're going like, I want somebody who's walked my path. I'm in the jungle. I want someone who's on the same part of the jungle, not someone who did that part of the jungle, but I want to follow the person who's now on the beach, and I see that they've forged a path, and they can show me where the pitfalls are. They can point out those venomous animals. And so that's where, as we come back together into our own individual experience, we actually move away from individuality and into collectiveness by separating what is a one size fits all everything. So although we are one of one, it's not a one size can fix all. But I will say that in the energy field, I find that it is very, very unified. The independence is on the more physical reality. And we do have to have certain angles. Like I definitely can vouch for myself that I've heard two people say the same thing. And one of them resonated, and I was able to take in at that point whether I was ready for it or whether it had come after something else that prepared me for it. Yeah. So I do think that we are individuals in that regard, but when we break down the fact that we are all just learning, we are all just creating, when co-creating, right? Because this isn't a soul on some level. Yes, we are the only real thing in this world, and everything else is a reflection of our ego. But ultimately, we're all co-creating in this holographic matrix of reality. And so it is a factor that we need to give each other their individuality while also accepting our collective potential. And that's actually a phrase I've come up with, is like collective individuality. How do you get to be as much of you as you can be? And 100%, I get to
in the moment, 100%.
When we come together, we're creating a more tightly knit and more foundationally strong community, right? So collective individuality is what I'd like to see take forward moving on out, as opposed to you need to have this score on mathematics and this score on writing and this score on reading. I don't want
generalization is a killer. Generalization is
making bread. If your gift is making bread, I don't want you to only learn what you need to do to make the best bread. And if I give you the entire life, right, which is what we've missed and this is obviously going off the rails a little bit, but what I believe is missing really is our apprenticeship era. You know, in the golden age, there was an apprenticeship era.
You can find yourself. You can find yourself because nature doesn't make a mistake, right? Nature says, you're one of one. Otherwise, nature would have made us all the same, and they were just male and female to procreate. That's it. That would be it. But nature makes it so we synergistically fit.
That's right.
We all contribute to each other.
And that apprenticeship that we're missing now, right? We have too much the separation between the elders and the youth. There was a time where you would go sit at the feet of somebody who had spent their whole life perfecting one thing. And they would dump 80 years of knowledge into you in 20 years. So by time you had 80 more years, you had 150 years of experience that you were dumping into somebody over 20 years. And so even though that wasn't necessarily looking at like, what does this person want? It was really like, oh, you're good at this. You're going to go be a brick maker. You're good at this. You're going to be a blackshearer. You're going to be good at this. You're going to be a housemaiden or whatever the case may be, right? There's no hierarchy of what's better or worse. But I do think that's part of what we're missing as far as the quantifying and the multiplying of knowledge in these individualized fields.
What do you say? What do you say about that money equals survival, and money is not the representation of what you contribute to humanity?
Well, would I say to that? I would say that that's true. I would say that I know plenty of people who have plenty of money and are not happy, and I know plenty of people with no money who are happy. Now, that being said, I'll tell you my own little personal opinion about money, having gone through a lot of my own poverty mindsets and poverty traumas that I inherited from my family lineage, right? I will be the first person in my family to be off welfare and have a six-figure business because of what I'm changing, right? But I will say that when I asked whether I was supposed to even charge for the work I do, right? Because I consider it the work of Christ. I consider it something that everybody should have and everybody can do too. Like I want to touch base on that because you mentioned about self-healing, right? I am not a healer. You notice at no point did I say I'm an energetic healer or trauma healer.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dean. I have no education.
I'm a facilitator. I allow my clients to take the power back for themselves, to release the things that are holding them back so that they can become their own healers, so that they can find their own truth, so they can be connected to their own self. So in that regard, when it came time for me to start doing these energy work and accepting payment for it, because like I said, I was a construction guy. Started my lawn care company when I was 12. I literally worked every job from construction to roofing, wildland firefighting, commercial fishing. And so when the spirit told me like, oh, you're supposed to actually be using your spirit to help people heal, it took a big shift in my mind, right? And I was like, okay, so how do I make a living at this? How do I support my son? How do I get my wife and my son the medical facilities that they need? I went deep into meditation, and I asked if it was okay for me to charge for this service. And I was shown a very clear vision that money is a neutral energy, and it is only enhancing anything that the people have that get it. And what I saw was money being dragged away by shadows in chains. And what I took that to mean was that there are dark, nefarious forces who do want to use money to control and enhance themselves, while not necessarily intentionally. I mean, I do believe it's intentional, but it doesn't even have to be, right? Just through ignorance, they could be causing the destruction of humanity. They could be causing the destruction of the individual. But it is our job as beings of light, as beings of love, to earn that money in high vibration and spend it in high vibration. So it's up to us to rescue that energy from those who would use it to harm, so that we can shift it over to people who are doing good, right? So that's my awareness of money, is that it's a neutral energy, and that it's our job to earn it in high frequency, spend it in high frequency, so that we can start to change the world. And I see it happening every single day.
Yeah. It's just, I think the financial print, all systems need to be upgraded. Our consciousness, what we talk in, for example, no system can even handle us. No system can even handle what we're talking about here. Nobody can even do something, in the system. So we have to update systems, not for generality, but for the individual, instead of saying there is race, sex, gender, and change it into, yes, that is true, but every human is one of one. And we can have systems that usually we created systems to serve us, right? And to keep us safe, because I don't need to belong to a tribe if the tribe actually hurts me. I need to belong. The DNA says you go to the tribe you want to be part of to be safe, and that you actually can be your one of one. Because if you have to take care of the horse, if you pick fruits in the woods and you have to take care of your baby, if you had somebody that fixes the horses and then you can actually live your life and discover your one of oneness, which is life.
That's the individual collectiveness. Yeah.
Individual collectiveness. So systems are very important, but they're outdated because of financial principles that are saying it's never enough. Whatever you do, Chris, or what you guys do, never enough. We're making $100,000 right now. Tomorrow we have to do $10,000. In 3 months, every quarter, you have to tell, yes, it was great. You surpassed the quarter, but now the shareholders want more. So it's like, expect more from you. We adjust the targets. It's never enough for every single person. And it's not enough even if the people say, oh, these rich people, the 6 people around the world, they are in the same boat. Because I'm old enough to experience rich people 40 years ago. They were rich. They didn't care about money at all. Today, they had one Rolls Royce. Great. Now they need 15,000 Bugattis and Royce and everything. Today, if you want to be rich, you have to have a yacht. You have everything. It's a continuous lack, and everybody's in the part of it.
But I would offer this slight adjustment to that, though, is that the people,
baby.
The people who were in charge, right? The people who were coming up through the 30s, 40s, 50s, the ones who, like you said, the Rockefellers, the Bilderbergs, the Hearsts. It's amazing to see what their grandchildren are doing, because there are people who are standing up and saying, like, my grandpa, pardon my language, but they effed this country. They were only looking at making sure that I and my kids have finances, and they're shifting that now. And I see a lot of people doing really great stuff, especially from like, what's his name? Why am I blanking on now? Proctor's grandson, and some of the kids from the DuPont legacy. They're literally being like, okay, we want to live here, and we don't care how much money our kids have. We want them to have fresh drinking water. So it's time for us to stop putting this money into a bank and start putting it into processes and programs that are going to clean up the ocean, that are going to educate, that are going to bring better healthcare and holistic approaches to this stuff. So just the fact that you and I are able to sit here and talk about this without being burned at the stake, that's a huge improvement, in my opinion. So it is always important for me to delineate and define between what was and where we're moving now. Because I really like that.
I really like that because I think the the stuff with the climate change is a system relevant vernacular that's outdated and needs to manipulate, because I say every human has human rights, right? We have human rights. We also have a responsibility, and every human has the responsibility of clean water, clean air, and clean food. No altered system, altered food, GMO or whatever. Because we can't, if the climate change comes, we can't survive the climate change. Even if we, not keeping in our thing, but it comes, we cannot survive it, because our immune system is so screwed up from not clean water, not clean air, not clean food, that if we make a commitment that every single human makes a commitment to clean food, clean water, clean air, and say, because I don't want my kid, your kid, right? Okay, you want your kid to not have kids, and his kids have to run around with oxygen masks and their age is 50? No. When you fix that first, then we can talk about the climate change. Yeah, because that will affect the climate change.
Agreed. And for me, what I'm trying to bring to that is that if we can change the way people believe about themselves and their securities and their safety, then they can start to make better decisions, which is, like I said, why I want to start working with CEOs, why I want to start working with business owners and employees or employers, because as you change the corporate structure and the corporate culture, if we can start having happy bosses, we have happy employees. If we have happy employees, we have happy parents. If we have happy parents, we have happy kids that are learning, that are changing, that have an opportunity to grow and shift things. And that's where our future is, right? So it doesn't have to wait. We don't have to just fix the kids right now. It's like, let's fix everybody from the top down, the people who do have the money, who do have the power, who are making the decisions.
100%.
Help them understand the folly of their ways without the condemning, without that we're going to burn them at the stake, without that we're going to put their heads on a post, right? And move into, like, how do we heal? How do we heal?
The word is now. Not, we got to process, because that takes us out. Now, consciousness, awareness is automatic change.
Yeah.
Once you're aware, you change.
And I could go hours and hours on just the conspiracies and the systems that are in place, but I find it's far more valuable to pour into.
That's far more better. And also, people that talk constantly about our world spirituality and say, oh my God, when you're dead, think about the spirituality. You're a spiritual being physical. So the physical, the human is the superpower. Yeah. If you experience humanity, you experience your superpower, your limitlessness. If you experience, I was just with my higher self, I talked about this, and then I went to Zeus and Zeus and Zasus, and I talked to God and all this. God, do this when you're dead. When you leave here, do that, And I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to them when they come.
Room for both,
but not focusing. I'm a spiritualist. Let me bless you.
Well, there's spiritual bypassing. There's spiritual bypassing. There's toxic positivity. There's this a good vibes only thing. I don't buy into that. Like, I live in the shadow space. I delve into the darker places, and I find the light there, because this is a human experience. If we wanted only unity and we wanted only to be at peace and only to be home, we wouldn't have incarnated. We would have stayed angels.
Exactly.
Right?
Perfect.
So to enjoy the contextualization of difficulty and transforming and transmuting it into possibility is really what we're here for, right? So when my son's having a meltdown and he's losing his shit and he's hitting me in the face and he's trying to bite himself and he's trying to break the windows, there's a moment where I could go like, la 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 la, you can ignore this, or I could go, whoa, this is intense, man. This is an intense emotion that I'm having. This is an intense experience I'm having, and I can actually love that too. I can love the fact that
lean into it.
Then I can move through it, as opposed to just ignoring it. And I can grow from it, and I can manipulate it and choose. So I agree with that.
And I love where this conversation is going, gentlemen. It can go, like you said, for hours and hours and hours and hours. But I want to put a shout out to a few people who's actually been commenting on the platform today. Chris has been commenting. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. Alexandria has joined us too as well. So she was here for a little bit. Michelle, kid you not, you have got some great shares. Can't wait to have that great engaging conversation with you here in just a little bit. And of course, I believe it was another gentleman, Adam. Adam, can't wait to have a great and engaging conversation with you too as well. And I want to say her name is Toby, but she spells it with an I. I'm glad that you actually are engaging here too as well, and everything. So I would like to encourage you all. I just sent the link into the comment section, not only on YouTube but also on LinkedIn. I want all of you to come share your story on Conversation for Humanity. Same thing with you, Michael. I can't wait to have a great and engaging conversation with you. But I want to put this out there to all of you too as well, and for the many people who are watching. If you really love these kind of conversations and you really get a thrill out of it and you really can get some insights on it, not only do I want you to end up coming sharing your story on Conversations for Humanity, I'd like to put that invitation out to each and every single one of you to join us in this great and growing community and movement that is bringing humanity together, because maybe we can be the pioneers and leaders of today for tomorrow by showing up today and saying the time is now, the time is here, that we can unite humanity one conversation at a time, one opportunity at a time, or even in that one moment at a time in and of itself, and just kind of just say, hey, I'm ready to show up, and not only show up to say I'm here to participate, but be able to say, hey, for me to stand up, maybe I stand in and of itself. But as you were sharing there, Occam, and with Michael having that great dialogue between each other, let me ask you this: when it comes to creating a new paradigm shift of things that really is, I truly believe it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's only going to be a matter of when. How do we connect humanity in a great and positive way? Do we do it from the transactional that we've been doing for probably thousands of years? Or do we do it from the place of the transformation? What say you? And I'll go to Michael on that. So Occam, start with that.
Well, I definitely will say that. I mean, I think both are important, right? Because the transaction doesn't have to be just financial. Like the way that we're sharing here today is a transaction, right? We're allowing for people to see something new. And I think that that's really one of the most important things for all of us to incorporate, is the fact that if I can change, you can change, right? And stepping away from any of these rock hard boundaries that say this person can't change, this person's this way, this person's this way. When we open up these conversations and we open up the transformation through the transaction of our connection, and we show up and say, like, I am giving you the opportunity to show up in a new way today. I'm giving the system, I'm giving these operational errors a way to show up, that I'm not holding them to guilt. I'm not holding them to blame. I'm not holding to shame, just holding the space for them to change and for them to be open, right? And that starts within us. Are you open to change? Are you open to have someone come in and say something that completely rocks your world and makes you question your entire reality? Because if you're not open for that, then how can you be sure that you're right, or that anybody's going to receive you? You know, and so that's what I think it's about, is that adaptability and that openness to receive and know that I don't know jack. You know, a lot of the times it is knowing that I am feeble.
I don't know nothing.
I have a feeble limited brain. Sometimes
don't tell me.
I don't know that force that has a higher vision and a farther vision and a longer reach than me, and just stepping back and being like, okay, my feeble mind is just going to be open to receive.
Yeah. I think the same. I think it's both important, and also transaction. You know, if I had hammers, I had the best hammers in a tribe, and you had chickens, Chris. And how many hammers do you need? You know, I can eat a lot of your chickens. So that we have to look back into how is our representation, which was money. It's now money is a skill. It was a representation of our value, of our contribution, and that was the best invention after the fire, the wheel, and money was the best invention of humanity. And I think it's holy, but we changed its function and made it systemically and made it a skill. And I think we have to think about that by opening each other's perspective, which we do today, right now, here. And that's how we exchange. That's how we exchange the value. And because you're not attracted to talk about somebody. For example, if I'm not talking to somebody that is sports thing, because I have no clue about sports. I'm talking about art. I'm an artist, but I'm not even specialized in art products. I'm in the art creation. So you get automatically, attracted to the people you want to talk to, or they get attracted to you. Open up and say, oh, welcome. I don't like the person, but open up You don't have to go in the world around and kiss everybody, but you need to know everybody's a one-on-one, and this moment can never be repeated, ever. We cannot, if this talk right now, right? We could never repeat this talk. So we can't copy. Every moment is precious.
Yeah.
And we could be all dead in a second, and we can all be having billions of dollars in thing and be totally happy. It's just everything is possible.
Have you heard of the Ubuntu movement, Michael?
I'm not an every movement. You know why? It's a generalization.
Well, it is, but it's a way of functioning in society, and they're actually doing it in Africa in a couple of communities. Michael Tellinger is a big spokesperson for it, but it's the Ubuntu movement, and it is like, okay, you get power and you don't have to work. All you do is 4 hours of community service, and all the rest of your needs are taken care of. You'd be amazed at how everything gets done, all the way down to scooping the shit.
Perfect.
When you take care of people. So I would definitely look into it. It'd be right up your alley. It'd be right up your alley.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
And see, that's why, like I said just a second ago, and on the comment here, that the next currency of humanity is going to be rooted in value and not money, because money is something that we have done since the dawn of time in that currency exchange, and all money is in its very basic form. And Occam actually kind of alluded to, and so did you, Michael, too, as well. It's just another form of energy and tool that we use to get the things that we want and need in life. That's all it is, simply put. But when we do it from a transformation space, that the very act of giving is in the very act of receiving, we don't have to live and be beholden by the money mindset no longer and everything like that. And the way I've even created Bring Humanity Together is because of that very mindset, that we can collectively and individually bring our gifts, talents, and skill sets to the table, and not berate or say you're higher or lower than me because of what you don't know, or you have too many titles, or you have too many degrees, or anything like that. I could care less about position or what you gained in your life, because see, that was meant for you and not necessarily maybe meant for me. But see, what I do want to do, though, is again understand, to be able to see what you see or even believe, and just take it for what it is versus what it's not. And then in turn, to have everyone be able to see and believe what I see and believe, and do it from a place of alignment, do it from a place of agreement, do it from a place of intentionality, do it from a place of flow, because all of them, gentlemen, they're interconnected, because we do things not necessarily on a whim and a prayer, so to speak. There's always an intention behind it. And we know when it comes to flow, flow is another word dynamic of change. And that's all that is. And if we understand change and recognize it in and of itself, just like balance, balance is in every aspect of our life, whether we realize it or not. But if we don't even recognize the balance, what do we become? We become imbalanced because of that. And everything like that. And I truly believe when we give people to have that choice in their life, that choice will be the ultimate path to freedom. And if we give that to them in such a way, again, it goes beyond the transactional, but goes to the transformation. Those field of dreams will not only be real to them, it'll be real to us.
Yeah, it says, you can say, when people say, yeah, money, 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 you can say, there's a question I pose to everyone. I said, in nature, there is not even money. And so I'm asking you, the billionaire and the beggar, both the billionaire and the beggar, are thinking about money 70, 80% of their lifetime. So I'm here on this beautiful planet, enjoying all this abundance of these planets and animals and everything, and I and also could enjoy other people, but I have to think, everything have to sieve it through that a lack of money. I have to think 80% of money. Doesn't matter how rich, how poor I am, my decisions: can I buy this car? Should I buy this car? Should I go out with that woman? Can I afford that woman? Every human thing is ciphered through So money. And I'm asking the question. I'm not saying anything what it is, but I'm asking the question, is the human life supposed to think about 70, 80% of money? And everybody can think their own, because everybody thinks his own. There's, the people that have the ability about money, that they are the money people. They say, yes, of course you should. You're one of one. But I'm asking for all the rest, not the 0.11%. Is money supposed to be thought? Is everything we think about money where we don't even want to be human anymore? We want to look like, I want to look like you, Chris, because you're taller than me. Oh, I want to go, oh, come on, why don't you have your nose because you're better? I mean, we don't even want to be ourselves anymore because we want to see what is valuable, what is generalized more valuable. Oh, blonde hair for a chick. Oh, it's crazy, completely crazy. And that's why I say we need to wake up. Well, we are waking up already.
And Michael, you do have a valid point. There's going to be a lot of us who always going to be thinking about the money, or there's going to be a lot of us only thinking about the position, or only thinking about the authority that we have over people and everything like that. And Michael and Occam and everyone watching, I kid you not, those days are literally numbered in scope, and here's why. Yep. Because if anything that came out of the pandemic, it was probably this. Mm-hmm. We found a new way of being and a new way of leading, because we kind of had that stop and pause kind of dynamic literally kind of forced upon us, even though it may not have been right, or it may not have been the right time. But what is really the right time in anything when you really think about it? So when you put it into context, gentlemen, that is there a right way or a wrong way to do things? That's only about perspective. That's all that is, and everything. So when we frame it from a place of not of one of perception, but into that truly perspective mindset to say what works best for me, what really gets me out of bed each and every single day to work with Occam, not work for him, because that's a totally different dynamic. But then when you, like I said, do that from that reframing type of dynamic, Michael, it leads to a better way of leading, a better way of growing, a better way of learning. And I kid you not, John C. Maxwell nailed it with just 3 words: listen, learn, and lead. If we could all become better listeners, then we can all become better learners, and then we can all become better leaders, not only in our own world, but also in the lives of others, and have them the opportunity to do the very same thing. But I got to go to what Alexandria just put in here, because she just first said just a second ago, she said, Occam, don't get into sales and everything like that. But this is what really caught my eye. I think this was another powerful question from everyone on today's call. She asked, how do you serve with energetic body for the holistic wellness of your clients to guide them to be the healer of their own journey? So, Occam, how can you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the basis of it, right? Like I said, if I'm not trying to heal somebody, I'm just trying to bring awareness to them. And I think so many people, there is that hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy, whatever, but below even those that I've found is the ability to be seen, heard, and understood. And so what I do with my energy work is be able to filter in and sift through some of the beliefs that they have that they're not what they are, right? And take away some of the blockages and the belief systems that are separating them from their true power and their energy body. And it's literally just by showing them the blinders, right? Because they're blinders for a reason. We can't see them. You can't read your label from inside the bottle, and you can't necessarily pour into your own cup. So a lot of the times my clients have all this amazing power and this amazing ability, but it's the belief systems and the energetic toxins that are getting in the way. So when you release those things, it's like knocking out the filter. You know, you have a filter on your fridge. If you haven't changed it for a while, you're barely going to be getting a little drizzle out of there. But if you knock out all the calcium buildup and you put it back in, you got this whole new flow of freshness that's coming in. And so I think that's what's important about how I help my clients take the power back to themselves, like Michael said, it's not about who am I and what's possible and what do these people think I can do and what can't I do. It's about getting back to the core fact that you are a being of love and light. You are a fractal of the infinite creator source.
You're perfect. You're perfect.
Have the ability to create your life in perfection, as long as you don't get mired up in all the stuff that they're giving us, which are
your free will, and you can taint it. You get your free will, and you can taint it.
Yeah.
So nature, you would say, if we would not be all perfect, you would say, nature and God is not perfect, but nature and God doesn't make mistakes, because nature is growing, is totally evolving, and is sustainable. Yeah. So if nature makes you one of one, Occam, and it makes you one of one, Chris, and it makes me one of one, you wanna start an argument and say, nature is false, God is false. It's you want to be right, just because what you're doing is saying that.
Yeah,
it is saying I need to be the best. I need to be better than Chris.
Different, separated.
Yeah, you saying you curse by every action with that. Your perfection. So when some people say I want to kill myself, I say, you think you have a mistake? You think a mistake? Then keep it up with God and tell God that you feel that you're a mistake, and you use your free will to shoot yourself.
Yeah.
That is believing our artificial system reality. That's why Occam has so much work to do to clear out those people. No, you are busy because we believe that we have the shiny object syndrome. Yeah. Because we created New York. We created Singapore. We created Google and Apple. What? They must be better than us. No, we collectively created it. Yeah. It's not Steve Jobs created it. Because if Jobs would create Google, just Apple, he would still sit with the ironing thing in his garage. Okay, it's not the people that are the light on.
Yeah, and I think that's an important factor to bring in too, because even Alexander's next statement, right? Don't get into sales. Well, then that would be to say that sales is bad, right? Like sales can be good. It can be done with accessing your light body and finding something that you like to sell and selling to people that actually need it. And I want to bring in this analogy to what Michael just stated about perfection, right? You may see that dead, rotting carcass of a deer on the side of the road. I live out here in the country. We got lots of roadkill. You may see that and be like, oh, what a terrible thing that thing lost its life. And now it is there a waste of flesh. But you get closer, you're going to find about a dozen different life forms that have taken place in that rotting carcass, the bacteria, the fungus, the microbes, and the insects that are now thriving off of that death, And so that's really what I want to instill in all this is everything is both light and dark. I know you was joking, Alexandra. I love you. And, but it is that level of like anything can be transmuted from a negative into a positive, because that's just how we are. That's what we're here to do, right? It's only through our decisions and our expectations. But I do have to get going. I have to get going real quick here.
Yeah. And see, that's why I truly believe, everyone, that when we just meet people where they are and take them for who they are and just build that bridge to them and with them in such a way, not only does it work in our world, but works in theirs. Again, that's where that transformation can be achieved and attained. But I want to present this to you guys, and we get ready to close out the call, but I got to get another call started, just like Occam is too as well. But this comes from Star Wars, and it's a quote that literally has changed my life like you'll never know. And it says this: embrace others for their differences, for that which makes you whole. I truly believe once we do that, ladies and gentlemen, all bets are off at that point. We can, again, do it from the next currency of humanity that's rooted in value and not the money or the position or the authority kind of dynamic or even ego or whatever the case may be. Because if we don't want to know what they know, then we won't know what we should know. And then once we do it in that kind of context, the next thing you know, it's game on. And everything like that. So
and that's one of the most important things about the sessions is like I spent an hour getting rid of my ego, my judgments, my political or religious beliefs, right? And enter into a space where I'm coming in as clean, as pure as possible, so I can truly know you and what your spirit team is trying to talk about, right? And getting rid of all my. I've heard, seen things that someone might say like that's a really bad thing, and to me, it's just a thing.
Yeah,
just a thing, exactly. For life perspective, that's a one-on-one person. He's a murderer. That's a one-on-one, but he's a king. That's a one-on-one. He's a healer. That's it's like everybody's a one-on-one. Open perspective, dance, open your wider. Oh, I didn't know.
And I've been both. I'll tell you, I've been both. I almost went
Yeah.
to prison at 16
Yeah.
for aggravated kidnapping and attempted murder. Right.
Yeah.
So I've gone from the person with a gun to someone else's head to now helping people heal to their best self. So
And I have
that's
no
why there's no
education.
room for judgment, because things can change, people can go back and forth, and it's all valuable.
I have no education, and I suffered until 52, and I hit the wall. I was system relevant. Who cares?
Yep.
If I'm not happy, if I'm not waking up in the morning and say I'm happy, who cares?
Yep. So it's getting about that time that we got to close out the call. And I like Occam said, we could probably go on hours, and I would love to do that on another call. But Michael, definitely me and you definitely need to talk. Please send me a message. Let's make that happen. And for Toby, Adam, Michelle, and of course Alexandria, and of course Chris, please send me messages. I would love to get your take on today's call. But I want to go to you, Occam. What is the final word that you would like to share with people today on Conversations for Humanity?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd love to connect with anybody that saw some value in this, whether it's just to get your feedback or see if I can help. You can always find me in the DMs on LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else, really. There's only one Occam Wood, so you can find me. And my final word would be what it always is. As we heal ourselves, we heal each other. As we heal each other, we can heal the collective. And as we heal the collective, we can change the very fabric of reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well said. So again, can't wait to have great and engaging conversation with all of you. Like I said, Michael, Adam, Michelle, Toby, Chris, please send me messages. I can't wait to have that great and engaging conversation with you all. And again, Occam, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today on Conversation for Humanity. So everyone have a great day. Make it your day. If you want to share your story, please click the link in LinkedIn and or on YouTube, or send me a message and I can send that to you straight away. So from all of us here at Bringing Humanity Together, Adaptive Strategies Group, and at Eat, Adapt, and Grow, we thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next Wednesday on Conversations for Humanity. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for the conversation, Chris.
All right. Thank you. Have a great one, all.
Pleasure to meet you, Michael.